Hi, and welcome back to Investment Banking University's Investment Banking course. We are on the second side of the perpetuity, the sell side right now, and we're talking specifically about the role of the investment banker, and the core product of investment banking is, of course, M&A. So we are going to be talking about an M&A origination methodology. Origination refers to the sourcing of new engagements for M&A, for the investment banker. So the following methodology describes the primary work of the investment banker, origination. And then the methodology arose through my work in my M&A career with the AltQuest Group, and the lack of content about the actual work of senior M&A professionals. There's plenty of knowledge around the technical support work of investment banking, including financial modeling and valuation, but there are really no texts, let alone courses, on origination. Not even a methodology for it. So we're going to be talking about it right now. The M&A origination methodology is the following. We're going to be determining our coverage industries and subsectors. We're going to be building industry and subsector index or indices. And we're going to pull national screens from our coverage area using Sales Genie or a similar platform. We're going to collect emails of the CEOs and owners from Sales Genie and Rocket Reach. Origination emails are then going to be sent to identify a target, whether they're considering selling, and to get price expectations. And then we're going to ideally have a pitch presentation for them, either on the phone or in person. We're going to obtain the sell side mandate if possible. If one cannot, we're going to develop a buyer list and pitch the M&A idea to them in a buy side capacity. So we're going to get right down to it. Step one is the database utilization and email collecting. The following email is then to be used after pulling a county list from InfoUSA or Sales Genie, or screening in Sales Genie, and screening by revenue size. Typically, if you're going to be dealing with the lower middle market and middle market, you're going to want to screen out companies that are not large enough. So you may want to start your screen at about 2.5 million in revenues, or about 5 to 10 million, depending on how large you want to go. And then you're going to get the contact information, their owner, the CEO, or president, and you're going to starting from the end of the database or the beginning, whatever your method is that you're going to be following, but you got to stick to it, and then go through each account in the database and determine the business owner's primary email address, either from the database itself or by going to the website and acquiring the email address. Once you have about 30 to 50 emails obtained in one day, the process of emailing begins with the best practice, which is described below. And the response rate to the emails should be right around 3% if you're using our template here. So the email inquiry that's going to be sent is going to start with, Dear business owner, it's a pleasure. I work with AltQuest Group right here in Fort Lauderdale or whatever city you're in. Would you be willing to take an offer on your business from a private equity group? Please let me know. Best, Michael Herlash, MBA. The third step is going to be offer and price inquiry. So after receiving the initial response, you will then message them that you will email them when you have the offers available for them and ask for the price of their business. The following is the email that should be sent. Dear business owner, all right, I'll notify you when I receive the offer or offers. What is your expectation regarding the price of your business? Best, Michael. And then the fourth step is typically after requesting the price, sellers are either going to ask you to have a phone call and provide their contact information. So if the seller provides this information, they will reply with you will reply with the following email. All right, let's sit down or let's have a call and discuss next steps. Does Monday afternoon at 1 p.m. work for you, or does Tuesday? And then if the seller accepts a meeting, then the engagement is going to be a sell side typically. If the seller does not accept after the meeting, instead states that the sell side engagements, you can get a different sort of agreement with them. And it's typically going to be associated with a buy side engagement then. So you're going to make a buyer list and actually go and build the relationships, or hopefully you already have the relationships on the strategic as well as financial side within this industry. And you can simply approach them and say, hey, this target may be coming available, or they're considering taking an offer. You have to be you have to clarify on that though. So including public companies, and you're going to contact the head of M&A at these companies if you're reaching out to a strategic buyer and ask them, hey, Brian, or hey, Tim, it's a pleasure. Would you care to take a look at a certain business with a presence in multiple states? Here's the size of revenue. Here's the size of EBITDA. Please let me know. And after you hear back, you're going to let them know that the seller has requested that we represent the buyer and the buy side fee is X amount, or typically this is just going to be assumed. So you just have to clarify whether or not they're going to be willing to pay a buy-side fee, and that's very important for the investment banker. You then ask them if they're willing to accept in writing, and then from there you can go about sending an NDA as well as requesting financials or requesting additional information from the seller. After giving financials to the buyer, the company is assessed and within the valuation range determined, and they may issue an IOI, or they're going to want to get more information, obviously, before that process of submitting an IOI. So the next step is to set up a phone call or meeting. During the phone call, you introduce yourself and state that you work on behalf of private equity firms. And this is providing that we haven't gone through the process to actually introduce a strategic or financial buyer yet, but this is the actual phone call after the prospective seller has requested a phone call. So during the phone call, you will introduce yourself and state that you work on behalf of private equity firms in locating quality cash flowing companies. And that is how you found their company. From there, you will state that you want to get an initial understanding as to the price expectations of the business. After the price of the business is found, you're going to ask how the business has performed last year in terms of revenue and net income, and then finally request a meeting at the end of the call in person if at all possible. So the following is your outline for the phone call. You want to have an idea in terms of revenues. You want to have an idea in terms of expectations and price of the business and net income, and then ultimately whether or not you're going to be getting a meeting with them. So if you do get a meeting with them, during the meeting you will introduce yourself and you're going to talk about the background of your company as well, the coverage that you maintain, and then after you have an understanding of the price of their business, you're going to ask how it performed and get more clarity on that. Oftentimes this is going to be involved in signing an NDA yourself. And then you're going to be able to get access to financial information, and they'll be able to disclose more information to you. Providing that they provide the financials back to you after going through that meeting, you can then calculate adjusted EBITDA. So you're going to determine the add backs to be calculated, and you're going to be using this as the basis to create a teaser and other deliverables for investment banking. So after the meeting, you now have the financials or financial data needed to do add backs to get to an owner's benefit if it's a smaller company, or EBITDA numbers if it's lower middle market and middle market. From here, you can input the recasted financials into the teaser and complete the teaser based upon the general information that you receive. The next step is you're going to actually have a more definite buyer list after you build the initial relationships in the industry, and you're actually going to go about connecting with these buyers either on a deal marketplace or the personal relationships that you have. Usually it's a combination of both in the lower middle market and sometimes in the middle market as well. So once the teaser is finished and the financials recasted, you can contact the buyer list in terms of strategic and financial buyers and put it on the M&A marketplace depending on how large it is. Obviously you're going to want to use more trusted platforms such as Axial for the larger deals. But when you have lower middle market companies, you're going to be using BizBuySell. And we just put that there because a lot of the times deals when you're just getting started in investment banking may be on the smaller side, so you should know about that. In terms of the next step, NDAs will be signed with buyers once inquiries are received from the buyers from the M&A marketplaces or the emails and phone calls that you actually make to strategic and financial buyers. You're going to get NDAs signed, and you're going to send back the additional information from there, and you're going to be disclosing ultimately the name of the business after the NDA is signed, and you'll be able to then schedule a phone call with them, and you're going to discuss the nature of the business in greater detail. Ultimately, you're going to be giving them what's known as a SIM after they sign the NDA, which is a confidential information memorandum, which goes into greater detail about the business. So we are talking about the next step, which is giving the teaser with the name of the business. And then from there, you can give them the SIM, which we just stated. And then you're ultimately, after the SIM, you're going to want to be soliciting an IOI from the buyer. So after receiving the teaser and summary financials, the buyer is going to notify you that they are interested in purchasing the company. Oftentimes, between the SIM and the IOI, there's going to be a call or a meeting with the prospective buyer and the target management or ownership. And you're going to help to handle the meeting logistics there and be on the call or the meeting if you can be. This is going to be what's called a buyer-seller meeting. So Even before submitting an IOI, sometimes you're going to arrange the meeting in person with the seller, which is called a buyer-seller meeting. If the buyer is unavailable due to distance or timing, a phone call can in fact be set up. So this may be actually in front of the IOI. Sometimes it's not, though, depending on if you're running a process with multiple buyers. If you're not, you'll be able to have these meetings more frequently. But if it's a definite timeline with the process that you're running, oftentimes you're going to ask for the IOI earlier than that. And then after this buyer-seller meeting, you can make the buyer will then make an official offer in the form of a purchase agreement, and this is actually going to be given to the seller, and you're going to do an offer analysis with them. So after a seller reviews the purchase agreement, they will either sign the contract or counter with different terms. They are to sign the contract with contingencies written into the contract. So after that, you're going to enter due diligence. After receiving the counter, the buyer can sign the agreement, which makes for a legally binding purchase agreement contingent on the items that will now be explored through the due diligence period. As items are explored, the buyer signs off on these items, and they are no longer in question one by one. The next step is to complete due diligence. After all the items in due diligence are listed are completed, due diligence is now completed and the closing can be scheduled. The documents are to be sent to the closing agent with instructions as to the M&A fee as well, meaning we're going to be on the flow of funds document so that we ensure that we get paid. Finally, with the closing in, checks get cut both to the seller as well as the M&A professional or investment banker, and you can take your M&A fee and bring it to your bank. So that's it for this video. We're going to be talking about the mandate target matching methodology as we continue talking about the second side of the perpetuity, the sell side, in particular, the investment banker's responsibilities.